Hello, 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 beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. Let's talk today about fear and how to overcome it so that you can harness your creative capacity, step into flow and the divine will for your life so that you can align to your highest expression, your highest timeline, and even your dream life. I've pulled together psychology, science, and spiritual evidence to help us better understand why do we experience fear and what does it mean? How do we shift out of it? And how do we stop creating more of the same from fear and access our highest self and our highest timeline? As a point of clarification, for the sake of this conversation, I have lumped together fear and anxiety, since essentially fear drives anxiety. So, know when I say fear, I also mean anxiety. Now, we've all been there standing at the edge of something new and feeling the fear and the anxiety of the unknown. Maybe you had to let go of a relationship or a career or a version of yourself that's no longer serving who you are becoming. It can be terrifying and overwhelming. And I know I have felt like the ground underneath me is crumbling at times. The activation in the nervous system can feel like an earthquake inside, and the shaking and the heart racing and that sick feeling in your stomach sometimes makes you want to crawl out of your skin. It can feel like too much to bear. And sometimes I know historically I wanted to run to my coping mechanisms to make it go away. Come to find out, irritability is often the first sign of anxiety, and of course, fear for that matter. And when we can't run or fight, we tend to get paralyzed or shut down. We all know that fear is unhealthy and it creates a life we don't want to live. But how are we supposed to shift into faith and trust when we are so riddled with fear? We know that we're supposed to shift into faith and trust in the divine order so that we can unlock our creativity and infinite potential. But we live in a time where everything is moving fast and there is very little certainty right now. Life is ever changing. From moment to moment, things seem to be shifting, and it sometimes feels like emotional whiplash. Instead of trying to control everything, we're going to have to learn how to trust the process, go with the flow, and make friends with uncertainty, which means conquering our fears, or maybe just learning to work with it, learning how to leverage it so that it works for us. I know that when I cling to unwavering faith that feels illogical and maybe even delusional, with absolute certainty that I unlock something extraordinary. But it is so easy to get thrown back into those moments of fear. So it becomes a practice. We have to work out our muscle of trust, faith, and surrender and start to catch those moments of fear to make them work for us. If I remember the truth that God has a good plan for my life, and it is a plan to prosper me and not harm me, that's the kind of faith that allows me to enjoy the creative process of stepping into the unknown, no matter how uncertain or unstable things might feel or seem. I'll never forget the time I quit my job to step into my purpose. At the same time, I was going through a divorce and money was tight. I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to provide for my children or maintain that roof over our head. I thought I was going to have to let go of our home. I started to get a little ahead of my skis, and I thought I needed to move into something smaller and cheaper to prevent what I feared would happen, which broke my heart. The instability for my children was the last thing they needed. But instead of jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire this time, I decided to choose to hold myself through the fear. Luckily, I had gone through a lot of trauma healing, had a very significant understanding of the nervous system and what was happening in my nervous system, and how an activated nervous system tends to cut us off from that divine provision. So I learned to hold myself through that fear, and I waited and I prayed. And I trusted that my creator would deliver in a way that I never could see coming. And of course, he did. Unexpected checks showed up in the mail. We had more Christmas gifts than we had ever had any other year. And not only was I able to provide for my children and keep our home, but I also received the guidance that led me into trauma spotting and the gift that has not only transformed my life, but is changing the lives of many others. If I hadn't let go of fear and that need for control, my decisions would have put us in a place that we would have suffered even more, and there was no reason for it. My fear never came true. Fear is actually a messenger, and it's here to help us see our limiting beliefs and understand our nervous system, understand what we are attracting so that we can stop calling in more of the same and start creating. We can actually make friends with the void and recognize that it is a blank slate for creation. In quantum physics and cosmology, the void is fertile. It's far from empty, far from what we call empty space. It is actually teeming with potential energy. And that quantum vacuum is filled with fleeting energy that is fluctuating and virtual particles that pop in and out of existence. Dark matter and dark energy make up most of the universe. And yet when we observe them, they look like nothing. It looks like the void. It looks empty to the naked eye. But if we remember, in the beginning, there was nothing. It was darkness. And that first word that our Creator spoke created light. It was the first thing. Beyond that, it was just the void, darkness. And yet it was full of infinite potential. Just like our new life arises from the unknown, so too was the universe created from seemingly nothingness. In chaos theory, randomness and disorder, aka the void, gives birth to a new structure and new patterns, just like the turbulence and uncertainty that can lead to breakthroughs in our life. Chaotic systems often self-organize into higher order and complexity. Have you ever noticed if you have a challenge or a problem, if you just sit back and watch, it tends to resolve itself? Oftentimes we get in the way and we create more problems because of our fear. We are not saving ourselves from anything. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in a state of possibility until they are observed. That choice to choose a perception of fear is equally as creative and powerful as a choice to perceive the goodness and the certainty of the goodness of the future. That means that the future isn't certain yet. Our awareness and our choices shape what becomes real. The void, the uncertainty, and the darkness are the very foundation of our creation. This is why nearly every ancient text offers guidance regarding fear and keeping it at bay. The Bible says that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. Another verse says that if someone believes what they say will happen, it will happen for them. Notice, for them. That one's worth repeating because it is very intricate. You have to look at the details of that language. If someone believes what they say will happen, it will happen for them. So notice the belief is a factor, what you say is a factor, and you are creating what will happen for you through what you believe and what you say. The most repeated instruction in the Bible is not to fear in various ways that I could come up with. It looks like about 170 times, although some will say it's 365 days, but I was not able to validate that. As much as I would love to believe that there's a do not fear for every day of the year, that's unfortunately not true, even if you look at the different variations of how you could say that. Regardless, it is still the most utilized commandment. The Quran says, do not lose hope or be sad. You will surely be victorious if you are true believers. The Tao says, when you are in the light, fear dissolves because fear is only the shadow of a misunderstanding. The Emerald Tablet says, fear not, for the law is eternal and man is but a moment in time. Trust in the divine plan, for the path to light is clear to those who seek it. The Bhagavad Gita says, to not grieve or fear. The Dhammapada suggests that fear rules our heart. Other sages and other wise leaders will tell you that fear is false evidence appearing real or falling for evidence of an alternate reality. Essentially, the point is the fear is not real. And in my work as a somatic therapist, I've noticed fear feels like crap in the body because it's not true. But truth resonates in the body and you can feel the rightness of it. Fear makes us feel sick. Neuroscience tells us that fear is an indication of an activated nervous system. And I have seen how it cuts us off from the divine flow of guidance and provision when we are in that state of activation. Our creativity is shut down, our vision is narrowed, and we miss opportunity. We see threat where there is none. Fear is a form of worshiping the very thing that we do not want. Fear is the negative expression of faith. Fear and anxiety come from getting ahead of ourselves. We are too far in the future. Our creative capacity lives in the now. And unfortunately, when we are allowing ourselves to dwell in the fear, we will come up with imaginations and we will catastrophize, just giving fuel to the darkness that we do not want to create. We are told to put on the armor of God, which includes the belt of truth and the shield of faith. Faith in the higher divine order unlocks that prefrontal cortex, our smart brain that's actually able to rationalize and see clearly instead of coming from an overactive limbic system that only feeds us fear and emotion. Our smart brain allows us to imagine the possibilities, to solve problems, to access our higher frequencies and vibrations that elevate us into those higher timelines, the life we desire. It allows us to experience the highest versions of ourselves and those we love. Let me reiterate that. It's important to recognize we get to choose what we see, not only in ourselves, but in our lives and in others. Reality, and I'm using my air quotes, can be scary, but we have to realize that nothing is as it seems. There is no reality. There are many different potentials. Cognitive psychology tells us that thoughts become things. Beliefs lead to thoughts, lead to emotions, lead to action, lead to result, and then we repeat the cycle. Confirmation bias arises out of this, assuring us that we will see and experience whatever affirms those thoughts, beliefs, and perspectives. Quantum physics reminds us that energy is everything. Fear lowers our frequency, attracting our experiences that then have to match our vibration. But faith elevates us, aligns us with the highest timeline, and opens doors to miracles. What we observe, we create. And when we focus on fear, we manifest more of what we fear. But when we can focus on faith and trust and the divine plan, we can bring those realities that we desire into our physical existence. The past, present, and future exist simultaneously. And when we choose faith over fear, we energetically align with that highest version of ourselves and our future. So we're starting to see how important it is to keep our thoughts in faith and trust and out of fear. And here are my 8 tips to help you shift out of fear and into faith. First and foremost, let's start with making friends with the unknown. The unknown is not an empty space. It is a field of endless potential waiting for you to choose. Faith is the act of observation that brings the unseen into reality. And when we hold peace and faith in the unknown, we align ourselves with the frequency of creation, where miracles can happen. Faith anchors us in the present, where all possibility converges. The unknown is simply the unmanifested becoming known through your belief. Make friends with the unknown. Fear creates more of the past. And ask yourself, what am I creating right now? What am I feeling right now? Is this what I want to feel or create? Is this how I want to use my energy, my focus, my attention? And then choose to see your highest timeline and the highest version of those people that you want to be with. Harness your creative capacity to pull yourself into your highest timeline. This is our responsibility to learn how to do so. Consider it a challenge. What test, lesson, or skill am I going through? Ask the divine to show you. How are you asking me to level up? What challenge am I being asked to overcome? And then dig into how to overcome it. Tap into the wisdom of the body for the guidance that the mind cannot find. Notice what fear is telling you. It points to a belief that is holding you back. You are believing something that is not true to your core state of being of wholeness. Your belief is out of alignment with your true vibration and your core frequency. We can also notice that when we're stuck in fear, it's because our brain has switched into its default mode network and is overactive. What is the antidote to that? Stop thinking about yourself and step into mindfulness, prayer, or gratitude. Get present. These practices shift us out of that self-focus and referential thinking and reconnect us with the divine flow of life. Remember that fear lives in the amygdala, in that limbic system that is overactive due to unhealed trauma. Somatic trauma healing, like trauma spotting, allows us to heal the wounds that perpetuate that fear so that we can quiet those voices of fear, calm down the amygdala, bring our prefrontal cortex back online, and start to think with our smart brain and tap into the creative flow of infinite potential and creation. By breathing deeply, we can also help calm that system. Meditation or even repeating affirmations can also help calm the nervous system. This signals the brain that we are safe and then again opens the door for trust and faith to take root. This also helps us reconnect with our creative center. When fear arises, gratitude becomes your secret weapon. From a neuroscience perspective, the act of gratitude and thanks reprograms your brain and pulls you out of survival mode into that state of trust. It is literally impossible to be both in fear and gratitude at the same time. Every time you choose fear over faith, you create new neural pathways in your brain. And over time, those pathways will become highways and they will lead to effortless trust and faith and optimism. It will also help you dissolve those old neural pathways of fear. Next would be get into a flow state. When we let go of control and we focus fully in the current present moment, that is where the creative process unfolds. Faith, not fear, unlocks the flow. In the Tao, they say the Tao is that which cannot be named. It is eternal. This ancient text teaches us that the unknown is the essence of the divine. Faith in the unknown is faith in the divine order of the universe. The Bible tells us that faith is a substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not yet seen. In the unknown, we partner with God to bring forth good things from eternity into time. The Quran says, indeed, with hardship will be ease. The unknown is where ease and growth are born, even in the face of difficulty. The Emerald Tablets tell us that man is in the process of changing to forms that are not of this world. When we embrace the unknown, we align with the process of becoming. When we choose faith over fear, we unlock a life overflowing with love, joy, peace, fulfillment, and prosperity. We experience less stress, anxiety, and struggle because our nervous systems are calm and able to receive. Our minds are open to solutions and opportunities. And even better, we level up to bigger and brighter versions of ourselves. Faith isn't just a survival mechanism. It is the key to thriving and creating the life we've always dreamed of. When we choose faith over fear, we unlock a life overflowing with love, joy, peace, fulfillment, and prosperity. Fear keeps us stuck in survival mode in that activated nervous system that is cutting us off from the divine flow of life. And yet, faith unlocks creativity and alignment with our highest timeline. So let's shift how we perceive fear and remember that the unknown is not empty. It is a field of infinite potential where everything good begins. It is the opportunity to see our limiting beliefs and create something new. So the next time life feels uncertain, celebrate the new information and the opportunity to step into creation. Embrace the challenge. Get curious. How is the divine going to work this out in my favor? Lean into faith. Insist on the certainty of the goodness of the future, knowing that the best is yet to come. The creative process is not about controlling the outcome. It's about surrendering to it. And when you do, miracles happen. If you need help healing your trauma, calming your nervous system, stepping into faith and trust, and really letting go, allowing yourself to flow with life and embrace all that the divine has for you, I am here for you. Your highest expression is my purpose, and you can check out the links below to get started today. I love you, my friends. Namaste.